Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this episode. We're gonna do some sort of pizza today. We're gonna do two stuffed pizzas. We're gonna make stromboli, which is an Italian-American classic, and we're gonna make calzone, which is the American version of calzone, which is an Italian version. So stay tuned for the recipes. For our first recipe today that's kind of like pizza, we're going to make stromboli. So the first thing I want to do is make our pizza dough because we'll actually use it in both recipes. So the first thing we want to do is take yeast and some warm water, and you can do this in a mixing bowl. I'm going to do the dough in a mixer, and we'll start by putting the water and the yeast, and the water needs to be about 110 degrees, and that's going to kind of let that yeast activate. And we'll let that sit for about 10 minutes, and then we'll want to sprinkle sugar in it. So we're feeding the yeast. So we'll put some sugar, and then once that's ready, we're gonna add all of our other ingredients to make the dough, which is our dry ingredients, the flour, the salt, and let that dough come together. We'll knead it for a while, and we're gonna let it rest for about 10 minutes. So now that our yeast has had its lunch and it's rested for about 10 minutes, we're ready to add our dry ingredients. I'm going to do this without the mixer on because you know me, I get flour everywhere. Let's put our flour in and a pinch of salt. And the reason I didn't put the salt in the beginning is because we don't want to kill the yeast. We want to make sure, because that's going to give our dough some fluffiness, and let it rise. So we'll bring this up and we'll make that come together. And once that's done, we'll take it out, we'll form it into a ball, we'll put it in a bowl with a little bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick, and let that rest for at least another 10 to 15 minutes. All right, our pizza dough has come together, so let's take it out of the mixing bowl. And I've got a bowl here, put a little bit of butter, a little bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick. I happen to have a little bit of butter right here, which, you know, I love butter, it makes everything better. And I'm just gonna grease that so that the dough doesn't stick to it. And like I said, you wanna make this rest for about 10 to 15 minutes before we roll it out and make our stromboli. So now that we've got our dough in our greased pan, we're gonna let that rest. And interesting fact about stromboli. So we're focusing on Italian-American classics this season. And this particular dish is named after a volcano in Sicily. And actually the dish came about when they were trying to make food on set while they were filming a movie called Stromboli about the volcano. I just think that's so cool and so neat. So almost like a Hollywood dish. So once this rests for 10 minutes, we'll come back, we're gonna roll it out, we're gonna fill it, and we'll get it in the oven. All right, our dough has rested. It's 10 minutes, so let's put some flour on our counter. We're gonna knead this a little bit before we roll it out because we are letting the dough rest, which means we're letting the glutens or the proteins in the dough kind of relax, like take a nap. We wanna get those a little bit tighter before we roll it out, but not too tight because obviously we wanna be able to roll it out. So just a little bit of flour. We're gonna bring it back together, kind of wake it up. And notice I'm bringing the dough towards me and then pushing it down with my palm. And once you do that, you want to turn it about a quarter of a way and just continue to do this. With pizza dough, knead it for 3 to 5 minutes. Gets a little sticky, add a little bit more flour, but not too much. You don't want it to be too dry. I think we're almost ready. And we'll roll it out. So stromboli is actually pizza dough that's rolled out almost in a rectangle, and we're going to put our filling in and roll it up. It's an interesting shape. Okay, I think we need a little bit more flour. And let's get this rolled out. You can kind of tell that it's, you know, it bounces back, so it's got some good stretch to it. I've got my rolling pin right here. Although I have wine bottles in case I needed them. And let's get this rolled out. Now, because we're trying to make more of a rectangle with this, so we can roll it, We're not gonna turn it quite as much as you would if we're making a round pizza dough. So let's go a little bit more oblong. I think my favorite thing to do is wear black whenever I use flour. I probably should wear white, and then if I get it on me, you wouldn't see it. It's nice and stretchy. All right, let's get this finished rolled out and we'll get it filled in just a minute. Okay, you can see I've got this rolled out kind of in a rectangle, about the same size as my baking sheet. If you were to cook this on a pizza stone, you would want to put a little bit of semolina flour on the bottom just to kind of keep it from sticking. Since we're using an actual baking sheet, I am gonna put a little bit of olive oil just so we don't have any stickage. Just rub that on. Okay, and now we want to fill this. So the first thing I'm gonna do, because we wanna add flavor, I am going to brush it with melted butter. And I'm gonna sprinkle some parsley. How gorgeous that is. Bring some color into this dish. Let's put a little bit of salt and pepper on this as well. Not too much, because we're using a ham product for this one, so I don't want to make it too salty. Okay, then we're gonna take ham. You could use prosciutto, you could put any ingredients in this that you like. We're gonna do a ham and cheese stromboli today. And you wanna make sure too that you're not putting it all the way to the edge. You wanna be able to have a little bit of your dough here so that you have a way to seal it. Let's do it like this, just like that. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of garlic on this too, I think. Just some minced garlic, we'll brush that on or smear it on, whatever works easiest for you. Okay, and then we've got some Italian cheese here. So there's Parmesan, there's mozzarella, there's Asiago, and there's Pecorino. We'll get that all covered. And I like cheesy. Okay, what we're gonna do next is we are going to roll this up. And then I've got a little bit of egg here and a little bit of water. So let's get that kind of mixed up. Put a little bit of water in this. This is gonna give it a little bit of a golden crust, but also crisp. You can do just the egg white. You can do the whole egg by itself. You can do egg with water. You can do egg with milk. They all create a different type of goldenness to your doughs. So for this one, because I want a nice golden crust, we're using both, and this will also help to seal our stromboli. And funny thing too, we pronounce it the same way here as they would the volcano in Italy, so stromboli. I'm working on my Italian accent. All right, we've got this greased. Let's put it on our tray. Let's egg wash the outside. And then I have my oven preheating at 400 degrees, and this is gonna bake for about 25 minutes. For our second recipe today, we're gonna make calzone, or in Italy they would say calzone. And it is similar to stromboli, but this one's more like a pizza that we're gonna fold. The first thing I wanna do is make some pizza sauce. We're gonna use this a little bit inside the calzone because I like a little sauce, and we're gonna use it as a dipping sauce as well on the outside. And then we'll saute some vegetables to get it ready. We'll roll out our dough, and then we'll get it filled and in the oven. So the first thing we want to do is get our pizza sauce ready. This is a little bit different than a marinara or, you know, a ragu. I've already got my pan hot, but let's get our tomato sauce in. Pizza sauce is typically thicker, so I'm gonna add tomato paste, and then we wanna season it. So salt, pepper, oregano, basil, garlic, And I'm gonna use dry herbs. You certainly, to make this a little easier and faster, you could use a store-bought pizza sauce, but I think homemade is always better. And this will keep as well. So once you make this, you can actually put it in a container, make sure that it's airtight, and you can probably keep this for a few weeks or put it in the freezer and you can keep it for a few months. All right, so you can see it's getting thick. Let's put garlic, and I like a lot of garlic. Let's put some basil. Now, in my sauces, typically my spaghetti sauces, I use more basil, like a 3-to-1 ratio basil to oregano. For a pizza sauce, oregano is the prominent spice, so we're gonna put more oregano in this. And then because we're using a tomato paste and a canned tomato sauce, you may wanna add a little bit of sugar, just so it's not quite so bitter. And just like a typical red sauce, we're gonna wanna let this simmer 10 or 15 minutes, just so those flavors come together and the tinniness comes out of the tomato product. The next step, because we're putting some peppers and onions in this particular recipe, I wanna soften them just a little bit. I don't wanna put them in the oven uncooked because they may be chunky and raw when you bite into them. So let's just get them a little bit soft. Let's put a little bit of olive oil in our pan, just enough to coat the bottom. Creates that non-stick and it'll help soften our vegetables. I've got in this recipe some green pepper. I love green bell pepper. I've got red bell pepper and some onion. And we'll just keep this on a medium to low heat and saute it until it softens. And then we'll go over, let's get our dough ready, rolled out, and we can fill it. So as I mentioned, we're using the same pizza dough recipe that we did for our stromboli for the calzone. So I've already got some that's rested. I'm gonna get my surface floured. For this one, we're gonna roll it out in a circle, just like a pizza. And we're gonna do 2 different sizes, and I'll tell you why. In Italy, where this dish actually did originate, this was meant to be small, like a street food that you could carry around. So the word calzone actually means trousers. So think about like fitting it in your pocket. And this is kind of like a pocket pizza. So we want to do something smaller than what we typically see here in the States. But calzone, as we call it here, is actually something you'll find across the country in every pizza shop. And if you've ever had it before, you know that we make it much larger. So we're gonna roll out 2 portions today so you can see the difference. And to keep this in a circle, roll it a little bit and then turn it about a 1/4 turn. One day I'm gonna get that whole like flipping it up in the air thing down, and we'll do that on a show. I think I need to practice some more. I eat a lot of pizza. I've never worked in a pizza shop. All right. So we've got a nice larger circle here. We're gonna make a smaller one. So let me set that aside. Make a little bit more room here for myself. Okay, so we've got our larger circle, our smaller circle, and I like to have a little bit of sauce inside. In some of the, oh, that's my timer saying the stromboli's ready. Let's take our stromboli out of the oven, and we'll let that cool a little bit while we finish our calzone. Looks beautiful. All right, let's come back to filling our calzone. I've got the 2 sizes. Let's do one with sauce and one without. Some people prefer theirs with sauce, some people don't, and use a dipping sauce on the side. We're gonna do a little bit of both. So on the large one, I'm gonna sauce it up because you know how I like things to be saucy. Just like a pizza. And this is actually kind of how this dish started. So I mentioned it was a street food, but literally when this dish was invented or created for people to be able to walk around and carry while they were walking around the streets of Italy, it literally was a pizza. They just folded in half before they baked it. Saucy sauce, sauce, sauce. This one we'll do without, and we'll use the pizza sauce on the side. All right, so we've got our sauce. Gotta put some cheese, just like you're making a pizza. And by the way, you could actually use this recipe without folding it and make a pizza. So in this one, we'll just start with the cheese. I've got the beautifully softened peppers and onions. Just gonna add another layer of flavor. Just think you'll have all those colors inside your calzone. And then pepperoni. And again, you'll notice I left a nice edge on here, and that's so that it'll stick when we fold it together. Like a little 3, 1, 2, 3. A little bit of egg wash on the edge so it'll seal. And we're gonna fold both these over. So it creates kind of like a half moon. And just kind of dimple those edges so it sticks together when it bakes. We'll grease our baking sheet a little bit, just like we did with the stromboli, since we're not using a pizza stone. And I'll get these on the baking sheet. We'll put this in the oven about the same amount of time, 20 to 25 minutes. And we'll get our pizza sauce ready for dipping on the side, and we'll be ready to enjoy some stromboli and some calzone. So look at how beautiful the stromboli is. Our calzone's done. Let's get it out of the oven, and we can eat some pizza. Gorgeous. So smaller one is about the size that it originated in Italy. The bigger one is about the size that we eat it here in the States. So pretty. Okay, so you'll notice the difference in shapes, right? And then this one, look at how pretty this is with that beautiful roll. All right. Oh my goodness. Who's ready for lunch? We've got gorgeous stromboli with that beautiful roll. And then your calzone. And as I mentioned, we've got it without sauce. We've got our dipping sauce on the side, or you can have it, oh, look at that, with sauce. It's just like eating a folded pizza. Stromboli, calzone. Thank you for joining me today. You have some bonus recipes. Not only did we make stromboli, the rolled pizza, we also did calzone, the folded pizza, but now you have a great pizza dough recipe you can actually make pizza with, and you have a pizza sauce. So you got a bonus today. If you'd like those recipes and more, go to jenniferbasil.com and follow me on social media.